trust you, God. Whatever I'm currently going through, I trust you, God. Right? Right. Okay. So, I'm going to go ahead and have a seat. We are going to read the scripture, but it's a scripture that you already know, and we are going to look at it. We are continuing our series on faith replacing fear, right? And here's the deal. I keep trying to get ahead of God. God keeps having to slow me down. All last week and the week before, I have been asking my wife, who should I start off with first? Because the whole point is to show you how faith replaces fear. So I'm ready to start calling witnesses. And God is saying it's not time to call witnesses yet, because we're not there yet. And I asked God why we're not there yet. And God says because there's something we have to lay down. We have to lay down a foundation first. Because if I don't lay down the foundation, me showing you all of these witnesses means absolutely nothing. Unless you know how to put the foundation down first, right? So, we're going to go back to a passage that everyone reads, everyone possibly knows, but we're going to look at it again. And actually, I know I preached on it once before, but we're going to go back and look at it again. Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 through 6. The foundation of faith is what? Hello? Trust. In order for you to have faith, you have to have trust, right? Okay. Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 through 6. Some of y'all don't even have to open your Bible. Some of you do. I'm going to go ahead and read it. Y'all ready? Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. Listen, God says I have to lay down a foundation first. Okay? Replacing fear with faith is hard. It's very hard. But I've come to realize that it's only hard because we fail to trust God. Okay? If I have complete trust in God, I can also have complete faith in him. That makes sense? Before I start calling on all of these witnesses for this series, God says we have to lay down our foundation. Before I start looking in depth at all of these people and how they overcame their fear with their faith, and before we start looking at all these wonderful people in the scripture who replaced their fear with faith, I have to first check the room. And I have to ask the question, how much do you trust God? Because the fact of the matter is, it directly correlates to how much faith you have. Y'all awful quiet. Does that make sense? All right. The equation goes like this. If I trust God more, I will also have more faith. That's fair. If I trust God less, I will have less faith. If I trust God minimally, I will have minimal faith. Does that make sense? That's how the equation goes. So ultimately, if I want to please God, because I have my faith and I want to have faith in God, I have to also trust God. The songwriter said, my life is not my own. To you I belong. I give myself away. If you committed to giving yourself to God, if that is the vow that you have taken, and if we're saying we're Christians, that is the vow that we have taken. If that is the case, then we are essentially saying, God, I trust you wholly, completely. Either we're going to trust God or we're not. You said that before, right? God who is reliable, who's good, who's honest, who's effective, we're going to either trust him or we're not. And if we're going to trust him, then we also have to have faith in him. That makes sense? All right, so let's look at this. I know that we say that we always trust God, right? I say it all the time. I trust God all the time, right? But as soon as something hits me that's awful hard, my always turns into sometimes real quick, right?
Right.
As soon as I run up against something that I have to actually put stake in, something that I actually have to wait on God to do, my always becomes sometimes real quick, right? All right, so let's look at this. The only way we can replace faith with fear, we can replace faith with fear. We can replace fear with faith when we trust God with everything we have. That's what the man said in the song. My life is not my own. My life and everything that's in it belongs to you. Right? If you want to replace fear with faith, you have to come to terms with the fact that you have to give God everything that you have. What does that mean? What that means is, when the doctor tells you one thing, you have to understand that God has it all in control. Right. And give it to God. When the bill collector is saying, I'm coming to take your house, your car, or whatever else he wants to turn off your lights, whatever else they want to do, we have to understand that because we have trust in God, I'm going to take that and give it to God. Right? When we run up against a situation that we don't know how to handle, and it seems rather bleak, we have to take into consideration that we trust God wholly, and so therefore we have to come and lay it at his feet. Right? If you're anything like me, I'll lay it at his feet. It's easy to lay it at his feet. I'm telling you, it's easy to lay it at his feet. What's hard is not picking it up again. Right? I can lay it at his feet all day long. Here you go, God. Let me just take a piece. Right? But if we're saying we're going to trust God, we got to learn to lay it at his feet. And no matter how tempting it is to pick back up, leave it there. Right? All right. The word trust in Hebrew, batak, it means to confide in so as to be secure and without fear. When you trust God wholeheartedly, there is no fear. I sure want to call my witnesses right now, but I can't call my witnesses right now. But I'll just say there are several people in the Bible who trusted God. And because they trusted God, they had no fear. Abraham had no fear. I couldn't resist. God told Abraham to go and sacrifice his son. And Abraham had absolutely no fear. You could hear it in the conversation that he had with his servants, and you could hear it with the conversation that he had with Isaac. Yeah. That there was absolutely no fear in his voice. When Isaac says, Father, I see the wood, I see the fire, where is the sacrifice? And Abraham says, God will provide. Yeah, Isaac more words than Abraham. Wait a minute. Anyway, the point is, he had no fear. When we're talking about trusting God, we're talking about trusting God such that we have absolutely no fear. Now listen, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not there yet. I'm trying to get there. We're working on getting there. Right? And so God says, this is our lesson today. Listen, we started off this year talking about spiritual growth, did we not?
Yes.
And we also now we're talking about spiritual, growing with faith as well, right? So understand this. Listen, we are not, I'm praying that at the end of 2020, that my faith has blossomed into a mustard plant. I'm praying, or beyond. I'm praying that my spiritual growth has gotten me so far that I'm not the same as I am at the beginning of 2020. Right? Because this is the path that God has put us on this year, is to grow spiritually and to grow in faith. And guess what? In order to grow spiritually and to grow in faith, we got to go through some things. Y'all understand that, right? You don't grow in faith by just sitting there and hanging out. Y'all know that, right? You don't grow in faith by everything going good. Everything going according to plan. Y'all know that, right? Some things got to not work right, and God has to come in, and you have to see how reliable God is in order for that faith to grow, right? But then by the same token, you don't come back the next time something else happens and have to start all over from scratch. At some point, we got to keep adding on to that, right? Okay. When you trust God with no fear, when you're trusting him with everything you got, you are saying, God, I am secure in all that you have in store for me. I am secure in all that you have planned for my life. Because I remember Jeremiah 29:11 says, I have a plan. I know the thoughts I think, thoughts of good, not evil, to bring you to an expected end. When you trust God with everything you got, you understand that God, you are saying, God, I am secure in the plan that you have for me, because the plan that you have for me is for my good. It is for good and not evil, to bring me to where you want me to be. I am secure in my going out. I am secure in my coming in. Yeah. I'm secure in my finances. I'm secure in my health. I'm secure in you. Yes. Even though them people at my job say I'm crazy, I'm secure in you. Mm-hmm. Even though my family members say there's something severely wrong with me, I'm secure in you. Even though all the people that I know around me tell me all of this negativity, God, I'm secure in you. Amen. And what they say is what they say, but I'm going by what you say. Right? This trust that Solomon speaks of is like a servant waiting for his master's command in readiness to obey. It's like us standing there, understanding that we've given God our complete trust. And so we're just waiting with bated breath on God to say, go here, go there, do this, do that. And we just hop to. When I was in the military, we would get an order. And the only thing you could do with that order is you could repeat it back, but you had to do it. Now, these are men like me. More often than not, their orders are stupid. But because I had to do the military thing, I had to obey everything they said, whether I trusted it or not. They didn't have my best interests at heart. They wasn't thinking about how it would help me. All they were doing was telling me what to do, and I was doing it. This time I'm with God, and God is telling me how to do it and what to do, but this time is different. Because this time, God is telling me what's best for me. He has my best interest at heart. He knows exactly where he's trying to get me. And he has an expected end. And that end is good and not evil. Yeah. So now, I have to trust God wholeheartedly. So we got to change our attitude. We got to change our attitude. We can't continue to trust God when it's convenient. And when it's not convenient, work on our own knowledge. We can't do that anymore. We can't trust him sometimes. We got to trust him all of the time. But here's what's funny. We have to, it's a contradiction. When we say we trust God, and then we turn around and get up off our knees, pick that thing right back up and start going and doing our thing. We're a contradictory soul. Right? And it's a contradiction. And let's be honest. I'm going to ask y'all a question. When somebody tells you that they love you, are you looking at their actions or are you looking at their words? Their actions say exactly whether or not they love you, right? Guess what? Your actions say exactly whether or not you trust God. Because if you put it down at his feet and 10 minutes later you come pick it back up again, that's all he needed to see to understand you don't trust me at all. Oh, let me rephrase. You trusted me for 10 minutes. And then you decided to take it and handle it yourself. We can't continue to live this contradiction. God is reliable, is he not? Yes. He's good, is he not? Yes. He's honest, right? Honest so much so that he's going to tell you the truth. He's going to tell you when you did something wrong, when you did something right. He's honest. And guess what? He's also effective, right? Yet we still only give him half of our trust. Trusting God with our whole heart means not doubting God, not doubting his word. If he said, he will perform. Amen. It means taking and believing when God says all things work together for my good, that's true, in spite of the fact that this is a bad situation. When he says that he's working for my sake, even though it seems like he's left me all by myself. Trusting God wholeheartedly means that even though I feel alone, God says I'll never forsake you. I can't possibly be alone. Right? It means believing that God's plan for my life, his thoughts are good for me and not evil. His thoughts to bring me to that expected end. It means that he loves me so much that he would never leave me alone to fend for myself. I love my son. I love my daughter. They grown. I want them to go and do their thing. I want an empty nest, Sister Sheila. But if ever my son and daughter needed to come home, you can best believe I'm opening my doors. Yes. Even though they are grown, even though now they have a life of their own, that they can do all the things that they want to do on their own. I can't tell them what to do no more. Now, even though they are that grown, I still won't leave them alone. Y'all understand that? I guess what I'm trying to say is, even though, Marlon, you think you're a grown Christian, God still won't leave you alone. Because he loves you too much. He loves you way too much to leave you all by yourself. When he says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Doesn't matter. You can be 90 years old. You can be the grownest grown man or woman in the world. God is still going to be right there by your side. He'll never leave you alone. But listen, replacing fear with faith means the only thing we know for a fact is God can do anything. Y'all hear that? Solomon says, lean not unto your own understanding. Right? The only thing that we know for a fact is that God can do anything. We don't know anything else. We think we know. We don't. And what we have to understand is that when we say God can do anything, right? When we say God can do anything, we can't put limitations on anything. Now I'm going to tell y'all a story. I was talking to a guy, we were talking about the Bible. He's supposed to be a Christian. He said, I just don't believe all of that stuff in that Bible. He said, really, do you think that a man was in the belly of a well for 3 days? Where he get his oxygen? That's what he told me. He said, what about food? He goes through all of this. And I said, wait a minute. I'm not going to argue with you on whether or not a man was in the belly of a whale for 3 days. What I'm going to ask you is one question. Do you believe that God can do anything? Yes or no? He says yes. I said, well, then why can't God make a man be in the belly of a fish for 3 days? I just don't think that's possible. Well, then you don't think God can do anything. And if you don't think God can do anything, then you're right. It's impossible for a man to be in the belly of a whale for 3 days. But I said, my God, who can do anything, can make a man sit in the belly of a whale for 3 days. He can feed him in that well 3 days. He can give him oxygen in that well 3 days. He can, you know what? If he wants to build residence inside that well and while he's there, he can do that too. My God can do anything. And I can't put limitations on him when I use that word, anything. Right? That means that anything I can imagine, God can do. But guess what? It also means anything I can't imagine, God can do. Doesn't it make sense that if God is the one who created the earth, that he's the one that created the physics of it? And if he created the physics of it, he can manipulate the physics of it any way he wants to? All right, let's move on. That sermon, when Solomon says, lean not to your own understanding, it should read, lean not to your own wisdom. Now, here's the funny thing about wisdom. How do you gain wisdom, Sister Sheila? Through experience. You gain wisdom through experience. I have a 3-year-old at my house that I promise you he know more than I do. I say this and he says, no, that's not it. That's not it. And he will correct me in a heartbeat and tell me that I'm completely wrong. And then I say, you're only 3 years old. You don't know nothing. And he argues with that with me too. I say, no, I know something. And I'm thinking that, and I look at that, and I say, you know what? Thank you, God. That's the same thing we do. God is the Ancient of Days. Yeah. He has wisdom beyond our own understanding. And yet, we 3-year-olds are trying to tell him, no, that's not right, God. You got that all wrong. He created the earth and everything that's in it, the physics that belongs with it, and then you're going to tell God, no, that's not right, God. You can't do that. How can we possibly think we know more than him? We don't have the title Ancient of Days. We don't have the title as Creator. We don't have the title as Alpha and Omega. We do not have the title as the beginning and the end. Listen, we're trying to tell God how to do his job. That's like Carter trying to tell me how to do mine. Y'all understand that, right? Yeah. Don't it sound absurd when you think of it like that? It sounds ridiculous. And guess what? I don't care how old you are. If you're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, you're still only 3. Y'all understand that, right? All right, so listen. I said replace fear with faith means that it means the only thing we know for a fact is God can do anything, right? Right. Here's what I think. I was studying, and this is what God showed me. He said, if we gain wisdom through experience, right? And so, as we go through this Christian life, we become wiser and wiser and wiser, right? Theoretical, right? And so what God showed me is this. If I'm becoming wiser, why is it that when I pray, I tell God, but you don't understand. You don't know what I'm going through. You don't know what I feel. You can't really relate to or understand what's happening to me right now, what I'm feeling right now. And we're basing that on the fact that we are experiencing something. And we're not taking into account that God experienced it too in the form of Jesus. Right? if I think about it, Jesus dealt with sickness.
Yes.
Jesus dealt with death. Jesus dealt with bill collectors. But didn't they have to get the fish out of the mouth to pay taxes? Yeah, Jesus dealt with bill collectors. Jesus dealt with not having enough food. He dealt with not having a place to rest and lay his head. Right? He even dealt with storms that he had to go through. He dealt with everything that we had to deal with. Right? And again, Ancient of Days. He knows all about the storm. And yet we try to be wiser than him. Now, you know what that is instead? That's insanity. Let me tell you why it's insanity. It's insanity because every time we go through something, Sister Sheila, we decide we're going to take charge. We're going to handle this situation. Right? Lord, don't worry about it. I got this one. That's what we do. And then we go and do whatever we need to do. And then we end up saying, oh, Lord, I need your help. And then God comes in and he makes everything right, fixes it all up, and moves us on our way. And in the next situation we come up against, what do? I got this one this time, Lord. I learned from what you told me last time. And we go in and try to fix it, and then all of a sudden, Lord, I'm sorry, it's a little different this time. You got to come help me. And so God comes and he fixes it, and he makes it all pretty, and then he pushes us on our way. And then the next time comes up, and then what do? Yeah, you got it. That's okay, God. Listen. I have gained experience. I have wisdom. I know what you taught me. This is what you taught me to do. I'll do it. And we go and do it. And then we find ourselves in that situation where we got to call on him again. And I'm thinking to myself, at what point are we getting relaxed? At what point are we gaining wisdom? It seems more like we're doing this insane thing of doing the same thing over. And having to get the same result is we always end up having to call God, right? Why not call him first? Why not say, oh, I got this situation. You know what? Why am I wasting time? God, come on over here and do this. Come on over here and fix this. And so when you fix it, God, I know that it's going to be taken care of and I can walk right on through. And I ain't got to worry about anything because I trust you wholeheartedly and you know exactly how to fix it. You know exactly what to do. And I'm not going to lean to my understanding of it, but I'm going to go to your understanding because let's be honest, you are the Ancient of Days. You've seen everything. You know everything under the sun. Nothing is new to you. You have it all under control. I have no choice but to trust you, right? Replacing fear with faith means God has to be an active part of our lives. Okay? Let me tell you something. In order to trust God, you can't just trust him today, take a 30-day break, and then trust him again. You got to trust God every day and let it grow, and let it grow, and let it grow. Right? And God, if that's the case, then God has to have an active role in your life. Right? Solomon says, in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. What Solomon is saying is God wants to be involved in everything. From beginning, from the continuing of work all the way to the end of work. God wants to be involved. I said that we begin this sermon today, this series. We're going to talk about laying down the foundation. The foundation starts today with our trust. Listen, because faith can't grow without trust. Y'all understand that? I'm trying to say, I know we want to have more faith, but we can't have more faith if we don't trust God. Okay? So it begins with where is our level of trust? And I'm going to ask you to do an introspective. I'm going to ask you to look at yourself Look at your life. I listened to a song this morning, and the song says, just think of one good time that God has blessed you. And then the song turns around and says, now take a little more time and think of one other thing that he's blessed you with. And then the bottom line is this: I'm sure that you will find something to grow your gratitude. Right? What that essentially means is every time you think, if you look at your life and every time you think of at least one thing that God has done, I guarantee you can go back and get two. And then if you go to get two, you might go get three. And then if you go get three, you might also go get four. The point is that the more you look, the more you can understand that God is trustworthy. He is worthy of your trust. He deserves your trust. He is reliable.
Yes, he does, right.
He is true. He has never failed. He's always been on time. His resume says that he will do exactly what he said he would do. And that is that he would always take care of me, you, us. Now, when we look at that, why not trust God? Why not give him everything? Why not say, I give myself away and I let you take full control of everything? My decision making, my daily life, all that I go through, all the storms that come my way, I give it all to you. I give you everything. Listen, if we want to replace fear with faith, we have to start by trust. Okay? We have to start with trust. So I'm going to tell you to do this thing when you leave here today. I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to do it too. When we leave here today, when we go home, at some point today, I want us to pray and ask God to allow us to be able to trust him more, to remove whatever doubt we may very well have, and allow us to give ourselves to him completely. You know, we're only giving him portions, right? Parts and pieces. The parts we feel he's okay to handle. And the other parts we want to keep for ourselves. But the fact of the matter is, God doesn't want parts and pieces of you. He wants all. Okay? So let's leave here today and let's talk to God and ask God to allow us to trust him more. And in the process of us learning to trust him more, not only that, but increasing our faith as well. Understanding that God can do anything. And anything is a big word. Because anything is more than just what I can think. Y'all understand that, right? When I say all, or I say anything, or I say everything, that's beyond what my little mind can comprehend. Y'all got that, right? By my definition, that's an insult to God of what anything is. Y'all understand that? All right. God bless you.